This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media, conducting a series of interviews in support of the Mining Journal Select Conference in London, July 1st and 2nd. Today's interview is with Brad George from Orosur Mining. He is in the enviable position of recording this from Buenos Aires, Argentina, where I wish I was. Brad, thank you for your efforts on behalf of mining investors over time, and thank you, too, for your support of this Mining Journal Select Conference. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Rick, it's a pleasure both ways, and it's a nice change to be talking to somebody in the same, well, moderately close time zones. Normally I'm doing this at some ungodly hour of the morning, so you've caught me at a good time.
Well, hopefully we'll all be together in the same time zone in London in the not-too-distant future. So, Brad, tell me something about your own background. Tell us why we should care about your questions to my answers around exploration in South America.
It's a very fair question. I mean, obviously, look at my face. I've been around for a while. So I am, or at least was, a geologist/geophysicist, and I spent, I guess, the vast majority of my career in exploration, working for various companies, large and small, in Australia and other interesting parts of the world. So really 25 years plus of exploration as companies, as contractors, being exposed to all manner of projects. Had a very brief and ultimately unsuccessful stint in the finance sector in London. Went across beginning of 2007 to try my hand at finance. A good idea, just bad timing. Obviously, the world went tits up in the end of 2007. So I learned a lot, but didn't make any money out of it. So I went back to the tools in Africa in 2010. So look, I've been around. I've seen some rocks. I can't point to any great track record of exploration success, but there is a hope on my part that I can be an overnight success after 35 years of trying.
What drew you to South America, just out of curiosity, given the fact that you'd worked in big countries in various parts of the world?
Really by luck. In my short broking career, looked after Orosur as broker and visited the projects a few times over the course of those years. I was asked to join the board by the new chairman, Louis Castro, 2020, so middle of COVID. The company was having a bit of a reshuffle. Needed a technical person. Louis and I were all friends. He knew me. He knew I worked cheap. He knew I was comfortable in interesting parts of the world. So he brought me on during COVID, and together we sort of carried the company forward from its point then of being almost on the bones of its arse bankrupt, and we've sort of carried it forward to the point it is now. So just luck and people and I've got the scars to show I quite like difficult, hot, wet parts of the world. So for my sins.
Well, let's start in a hot, wet part of the world. Let's talk about your Anza project and what you see as being the attractive aspects from a shareholder's perspective.
We have a number of projects, but Anza is obviously the key one, the one that underpins most of the share price. Anza was a project that Orosur came into over 10 years ago when it understood that its historical mine in Uruguay was coming to an end, and so it needed to replace that, which was fair enough. Probably came in too late. At that point, the company's project in Uruguay was not throwing off enough cash to then run this project, and it sort of sat there for a while, and it ultimately led to a JV with Newmont in 2018. Newmont had plans for Colombia, but then through security issues and other issues, no work was done. The project it looks on paper, and this is when I joined the company, I thought there were intersections in Anza that were off the scale, 50 meters at 10 grams kind of stuff. And I thought, well, what's going on here? This is lots of drilling, lots of amazing results, but it still sits there as a non-resource. And it really came down to the previous owners not being serious, us then not being able to fund it due to no cash flow from Uruguay, Newmont then not working for security issues, and then Agnico coming in to join Newmont in the middle of COVID, which restricted, again, what we could do geographically working within a bubble. So some work was done by Newmont, again, some amazing results, but Agnico and Newmont, really, big companies need massive projects. And so their view was, well, is this a 10 million ouncer? So they didn't really advance the project toward a resource status. Then we ran into, I'm giving excuses here, but we then ran into the political malaise in Colombia with the change of government, where the company still remains, but moving out of. And then Agnico and Newmont have moved on due to commercial reasons. So Newmont's done multiple mergers, as had Agnico. So Colombia fell off the front page of to-do list, leaving us with a project that we have 35,000 meters of drilling at Aptar prospect, multiple high-grade intersections. And then the first prospect that they drilled post-COVID was in the north at Pepas. And the first hole returned at 150 meters at 3 grams per tonne gold from surface, which is, as first holes go, decent. A couple of holes afterward were similar. And this is when it all got a bit odd, is that, again, this is when politics in Colombia were difficult. Agnico and Newmont were moving on for commercial reasons. And we said, well, can we have the project back, please? And with that, for a small company to be able to walk up and drill and prove up that kind of hole, it's not the kind of thing you get terribly often. But we've spent the last over 12 months now just negotiating the return of that project. So Agnico and Newmont earned 51%. They want to leave, fine. We want it back. But that getting it back is just a complicated process involving lawyers and accountants, as I'm sure you're comfortable with. We're trying to unwind a long-term JV without incurring any major tax liabilities, which we can't afford to pay. We have all the regulatory issues of the TSX and London market. So we're at the final lap, we think, of getting that project back next few weeks. And we're going to walk up and we're going to drill that Pepas prospect, where the first hole said was 150 at 3 grams from surface. And we hope that answers the unanswered geological questions of exactly what that is. And if we get the answers we think we're going to get, we can then move that to resource drilling phase in a very short time frame. So, the short answer is that's a very good place to start. And that prospect can be advanced to the resource stage in weeks, if not months, very quickly. So it's a very nice place to be for a junior company. We're just trying to deal with all the lawyers, and that's not my cup of tea, but the chairman's doing that.
So we have two catalysts really in the near term. One would be the negotiation of a successful return of the project. The second would be, in effect, confirmatory exploration around data that you already have at Pepe. Is that a correct summation?
That is correct. I mean, being a small company, we have different target criteria, and we would do things differently to our major partners. Major partners want to know, is this thing of their scale? And they want to know fast. So they want to know, is it 10 million ounces or is it not? Whereas we want to know, well, 2 or 3 is good, fine for me. So we would go back and drill and reconfirm that first hole, and then step out once we've confirmed orientation, depth, strike, then step out in small increments in a methodical, slow way that a smaller company would do. Our partners simply stepped out 500 meters and drilled deep in the hope that they were going to find a monster in the first hole, and they didn't. Whereas we're going to go back and just reconfirm, and as you say, the catalysts are, we're going to be reconfirming almost immediately, and then just beginning to grow incrementally. So it's a really, the catalyst in the near term, which I think in the current market is important.
And then briefly, you, for a small company, have a couple of other assets too. You have what is potentially a rare earth element project in Brazil. And in addition to that, a project, the name of which escapes me, in the Deseado Massif in southern Argentina. So perhaps you could describe briefly, in the time we have remaining, those two projects.
We have withdrawn from Brazil. I mean, I like the project, but upon notification or recognition that we would get Colombia back, we couldn't afford to run those projects. And so we had to do a bit of a pruning, and Brazil was the 4th best project, and that fell away. Argentina is, to me, is actually the best project, but being very early stage, the market doesn't share my view. We looked at new projects, and I sifted through, and my team sifted through projects 5 years ago, looking for JVs, and there was a lot of pardon my French, a lot of crap out there. A lot of projects available for JV or sale that just had been around the blocks too many times and just were never going to stack up. So we went back to grassroots and we found this project untouched, undrilled, unexplored in Patagonia, in the Deseado Massif, which is elephant country. It has all the signs on surface geologically of being in the same structures and same controls as Cerro Negro, which is Newmont's monster down there. Newmont concur. I mean, Newmont are, of course, our largest shareholder. We've been to Cerro Negro, they've been to our project, and they like what they see, but that's early stage. So we've done all the mapping, all the sampling, all the geophysics, and now that's ready to drill post winter. So early stage, but has all the right signs. And positively, we've got into that project at zero cost entry cost, low cost for the first 2 years. And oddly, we have the ability to move to total ownership at the JV, which is very unusual. So that gives us options to, again, find new partners. So in the gold space, we're quite happy to have something we can move into in the short term and be drilling grade at Colombia in a matter of weeks. And Argentina, I think, potentially has bigger potential, but being earlier stage, it's a bit of a hard sell in the market. So, we'll wait.
To the extent that attendees at the Mining Journal Select Conference want to learn more about Orosur, which living, breathing human being might they contact, and how do they reach that person?
We're a small firm. We have a total of 6 employees scattered around the world, all living and working from the living rooms. So I'm the point of contact. So Brad George, contact me in terms of like bgeorge@orosur.ca. The alternative is Louis Castro, given time zone, Louis London-based and Louis fluent in Spanish. So El Castro at orosur.ca. Louis executive chairman. So we run the company jointly. I do technical, Louis commercial, legal. By all means, I'll talk to anybody. You can't shut me up. So by all means, get in touch.
Brad, thank you for your efforts on behalf of mining investors. Thank you, too, for your support and sponsorship of the Mining Journal Select Conference in London, July 1st and 2nd.